I am deeply touched. I don't have much words, but just really appreciate the fact that you can step forward and contribute your fair share to the community that you believe you belong to and that you believe you're part of, and for people to be able to see you for what you are and for who you are and be able to appreciate that. Today was just an amazing day to see everybody from across all the communities, you know, even members of the political parties, members of the European Party, and you know, I'm really, really touched to see that. Basically, I'm from Zimbabwe, and I grew up, I was raised in Zimbabwe, I was educated, you know, partly in Zimbabwe, and I'm married to Farai, and I've got 3 children, to Tendai who's 16, and Brittany who's 10, and Tafara who's 2.5, and basically I work for Christian Aid, an international development NGO that works in 49 countries, and I'm the global advisor on gender and gender-based violence, and that involves working across communities and working with communities in many countries across countries, and that involves a lot of travel. As part of my work, I've traveled to Afghanistan, to Congo, to Angola, to so many countries. So each year I go to 3 countries to support our partners to train and also to assess our international development work. But there's a lot of community initiatives that I also do here in Ireland, including, you know, promoting political participation of migrants in the political spaces, as well as supporting migrants that are contributing in many ways, in different ways, including musicians and anybody that has some form of potential to come forward and realize and recognize their own potential and fulfill whatever their dreams and what they want to achieve as individuals. There have been, you know, some significant changes in Ireland. Even when going on public transport, you would almost be sure that the next person that's sitting next to you is somebody who's of Irish origin. But currently, 11 years later, it has become much more cosmopolitan, people from all over the world, and that brings richness to the country. And I think that really needs to be recognized by people that make and that implement policies, who are the government, but also other community NGOs, and that needs to be recognized and that needs to be leveraged. Because I think migrants do bring, you know, different perspectives and fresh perspectives into public spaces, but also in terms of experience and in terms of qualifications. There's a lot that they bring and that needs to be recognized and implemented in some way.
Important, there are many organizations you are involved with, many capacity you work with, many people you are associated with, and today's occasion is a typical statement of that. In all your works, what would you say really inspired you as a community organizer, as a very important person in the African community, and as a great speaker?
Basically, I believe social change is about meaningful, inclusive involvement of people, everybody, all the voices within the community. And I felt that I had something to contribute, and I felt that if I continue to stand on the sidelines, while at the same time wanting to see change in my own personal circumstances, but also in the communities that I'm representing, that I'm part of, I wasn't going to be able to achieve that. So I thought it might be quite useful for me to step forward and contribute my little share. But what I've realized is the moment you take the next step, then you actually begin to gain more social capital, and you also begin to gain so many friends and so many colleagues, and then you begin to effect the change that you want to see. So I think social change is about that. It's about bringing together and leveraging those voices and leveraging those resources. And I think that's the lesson that we learned from today. You know, we had representatives from various organizations, from women's organizations, from community NGOs, and from political parties and all that. And that is what makes us a community. And I think that needs to be strengthened, that needs to be protected, and that needs to be promoted.
And would you say
I think yes and no. I think since I came to Ireland in 2002, there were only very few migrant-led organizations such as Akidwa and a few others that mushroomed at the time, and also being given funding by the government. But unfortunately, you know, because of the economic crisis and the credit crunch, what also happened is that those organizations became the casualties of the economic crisis. So it's very difficult to just cut and slash funding that goes to those community and perceived minority organizations. So I think then but then that works against all the gains that we've received over the period of time since the phenomenon of migration in Ireland in the late 90s and early 2000s. So I think we need to go back to 2005, 2006, where there was a lot of government interest in supporting, financially supporting and technically supporting migrant NGOs, because this is the time actually to do it, because migrant communities have made Ireland their home, and I think that needs to be reflected at public policy level. It would be impossible for me to be able to do this without the support of my husband, and I think family support is critical, it's essential. And I really appreciate the role that my husband and my children played, in terms of making this, a success. And I think that is the biggest push for me to be able to do what I needed to do. But also I think the community, being engaged in the community and for them to realize and recognize the skills that you have and the potential that you have has been quite useful as well for me to be able to give me the base on which to work. Because there's nothing as challenging as feeling the fire to do something and then not being appreciated and supported. But I really want to appreciate not just my family, but also to appreciate the community leaders in our KDY and many other organizations that have supported. And also there's Parrot Show and there's many other migrants that would have been able to support me in the work that I do. But it is, I want to recognize the fact that it is quite a challenging space for migrant women to participate, just basically because you're a migrant woman, because expectations of you and perceptions of you are very different. And I suppose you, having lived here in Ireland, and you feel like you can contribute towards some form of change, we have done our bit, and I think, and also we've learned a lot. We are some taught of what we've learned from others, and I think there are some more formidable challenges within our countries of origin, and I believe we are the most important players and stakeholders in the development of our own countries, and I think this is the time to do it, particularly in Zimbabwe. So with all the experience that myself and my husband have, and also even my children, I believe that with the economic growth that's happening in Africa, I believe that we are key players and stakeholders, and I think this is the time for us to contribute to the social change and political changes that we want to see, and that we want to see for the future generations in our own countries of origin. And I really want to challenge other African communities to reflect and see how they can impact not only in Ireland but beyond, further afield, in terms of their own countries, and to identify niche areas that they can influence somehow. But it is possible, and I think there are a lot of men and women and young people that are already doing that, and that needs to be promoted and that needs to be supported. And I think guys like you guys who are the media need to continue to create that space and protect that space, because without the media it's very difficult, and without the media supporting that cause, it becomes very difficult for anybody to actually promote that and continue to further that goal. So I think people need to coordinate efforts, and for us all to join forces to make sure that happens. I think, because we come from a very different jurisdiction, and I think majority of the Africans are obviously quite resilient in terms of where we've come from, some of what we've faced in our own lives, and I think that's the experience and expertise that we bring into this context, and I think that needs to be nurtured and that needs to be promoted and protected. And I just want really to call on the Irish government, I want to call on in general, like local parliament members, make sure that they leverage that, they protect that, and they continue to see the opportunities that lie in the diversity that is brought about by Africans making Ireland their home. And I think the challenges that we specifically face because of Africans do not be ignored, they can't be swept under the carpet. We need to continue to bring them out and talk about them. We need to unpack those, and we need to be able to do something and include those our priorities and needs, in the policy implementation and policy development. And I think that's also through political participation of migrants, and I think that's critically important, both on the part of the government but also on the part of migrants themselves. We need to step forward as Africans, we need to step forward